Welcome back to Tech and Titanium. I'm Dexter Maddox, an oral surgeon and the founder of IMvision Dental. Our mission, as always, is to support fellow implant surgeons by harnessing the power of cutting-edge technology to streamline practice operations, improve efficiency, and reduce stress levels. In the spirit of transparency and in response to a wave of inquiries from my colleagues about our recent practice management software switch, I decided it's time to pull back the curtain. Today, we're kicking off a brand new series to answer your questions. We're exploring our journey from WinOMS to Sensei. This series is designed to offer insights, address your concerns, and hopefully guide you as you navigate your own software decisions. In this first episode, we'll shed the light on the onboarding experience with Sensei, the challenges, the triumphs, and everything in between. Just as a note, I'm not affiliated with Carestream in any way. I'm just providing my honest and objective feedback about our practice's experience. Before we begin, let's address the question, why Sensei? We found that Sensei offers a more intuitive, more modern user interface and improved security measures. It's cloud-based, providing automatic backups, easier remote access. The learning curve seemed like it would be easier for new employees. Plus, it has new features like an improved financial reporting system, a lot like QuickBooks, and a time tracker for patient seating. We were excited about all the potential benefits, and hopefully this series will help you understand if it could be a fit for your practice too. I'd like to turn it over to Corinne, our office manager, who really spearheaded the transition. Can you describe the first steps we took when we decided to transition from WinOMS to Sensei?
Yes. So when we decided to transition from WinOMS to Sensei, we were at the point with WinOMS where it was difficult for us to get a hold of customer service, and they were no longer updating WinOMS. We wanted to go in the direction of which tech is going in the world right now to go to a cloud base. The previous practice administrator that was here and I were transitioning at the same time that we were making that decision. So she had made the decision to choose Sensei, and we moved forward with starting the process of watching the demos and signing the contract.
Were there any significant challenges or roadblocks you foresaw before we initiated the transition, and how did we plan to tackle them?
Yes. So one of the major roadblocks that we were trying to tackle overcoming was onboarding and transitioning all of the input from the software from WinOMS to Sensei ourselves. Instead of having them automatically compute everything over, we wanted to take the initiative to do it ourselves. One, to get more familiar with the system, because the more you have it hands-on, the easier it is to be able to teach the rest of the staff. And as well as the previous experience that we had when we transitioned years ago from a different software to WinOMS, with that not being a smooth process of patient information and insurance information being transferred over. So we wanted to make sure that we had as much control in that aspect to get it flowing.
How do we plan to keep our daily operations running smoothly during the transition period?
So to keep the operations running smoothly and not affect patient care, we made sure that we added extended time to every single appointment that we had in the office. So not only our surgeries to add extra time for the staff to adjust and the surgeons to adjust, but to make sure that we had it for surgeries, for consults, for post-ops. We also did that for an extended time, not a short period of time. We initially wanted to shoot for 4 or 5 weeks, but condensed it down to 3 because Sensei's software is very user-friendly.
What were the key features in Sensei that you were most looking forward to before starting the onboarding process?
I think what made Sensei the most enticing to myself personally. Myself and the surgeons all have different things of what we like most about it, but what made it most appetizing, I guess you could say to me, is the functionality of being able to get from any other screen from the screen that you're working on. It works and functions very much so like a Google interface to where you can hop around very, very simply.
How did we prepare our staff for the significant change in our practice management system?
We did have a little bit of struggle with that. I will say that the expectation of what was presented to us from Carestream on how the training process was going to move forward was not what we were delivered upon from Carestream as far as the training sessions and getting walked through how to use it. Thankfully, Sensei is very user-friendly for you to click around and figure out. And we did refer back a lot to the manual that they provided to us, but the one-on-one training sessions that they market is not something that was followed through. We found ourselves walking the trainers through the system more than the trainers walking us through the system. As far as getting our staff prepared, we separated amongst myself and the directors that are in the practice to make sure that we sat down and did a learning process with them that's kind of like monkey see, monkey do. So I'm going to tell it to you, I'm going to show you, and then you're going to show it to me, so that I made sure that we had all of the aspects of training covered.
What was the proposed timeline for the implementation, and how did we plan to ensure it was followed?
So this is something we also had a hiccup with CareStream. We initially signed our contract with them during a transition of myself taking over the practice and another practice administrator leaving, which was back in September of 2022. We did not onboard and transition over to Sensei from WinOMS until the end of May, just because, again, what we were marketed and advertised to as far as the training process from CareStream to our team was not at the expectation or standard of what they advised us it was going to be. So we did a lot of having to take time out of our full practice schedule and our full busy schedule to find time to learn the system, to be able to set up training protocols to teach the staff.
Can you walk us through the actual onboarding process?
Yes. So the onboarding process with Sensei, the way that they have it laid out and structured, is for you to sign the contract, and then you have your staff enrolled in a email link that goes to their training website. I believe it's Dental Institute, and every staff member is set to be assigned to whatever you assign them to. So if it's a clinical staff, you can have them do just the clinical modules. If it's a clerical staff member, you can have them just do the clerical modules. In our practice, we cross-trained, so we had our staff members signed up for every single module, because the more you know, the better. And then once your team goes through the modules, the Sensei CareStream will get you set up to have a Teams meeting where you share screen, and one of their trainers walks you through the process, and it's set up in 4 different steps. So they start off with admin. It's listed as front desk, but it's admin to set up the practice software itself, especially if you are manually transitioning everything over from your previous software and not having them transition over. They set up the schedule, the time frame, the doctors with you, and then they go through some basic steps like scheduling. And the second is the advanced admin. So it's more insurance, billing, portion of Sensei. The third was purely clinical, everything that they have set up in the clinical aspect, which the software is still currently in development. So that was a very quick, short session. It's not a lot that they have to go over. And then the 4th session was Sensei imaging. They only have you go through the Sensei imaging if you sign up for and contract with to have that feature as well. So if you don't, it's not one that you have to go through.
How long did the transition process take from WinOMS to Sensei? How did this compare with your initial expectations?
The process to transition over from Sensei was a lot more than we expected it to be very honest. The expectation and standard that was laid out was that it was going to be very seamless. We were going to have consistent access to any of the trainers that we worked with. After going through the process of getting our staff members enrolled into what modules they needed to be enrolled in, because we cross-trained and we had all of our staff members enrolled in all of the modules, not everyone had access to all of them. Some didn't matter what department that they worked in, and I had set everyone up for the same learning, had gotten 3 or 4 modules, some of them got 20. So we had a learning curve with having to get a hold of them to get us set up for that. We also had a struggle with our lives teams trainings as well. It was hard to get it scheduled with a particular person. It was a very large process to work through to get in contact with a consistent person at CareStream. We kind of felt tossed around from person to person. And the strongest training aspect that we had through the modules was the clinical portion. We struggled with the Sensei imaging. CareStream did not get us set up with our imaging software until less than 24 hours before we were set to go over the module with the trainer. So we spent that entire module just getting our staff members signed up for it, not getting walked through the training process. So we've walked through that ourselves. As far as the front desk modules go, we felt more of us walking through the software with the trainers and explaining things to them because we had done our due diligence to study the materials they had sent us. We were answering questions that they didn't have the answers to, which is understandable because the software is still in development, but it was frustrating when the expectation was set very high.
Were there any particular challenges encountered during the onboarding process? How are these addressed?
Yes. So, I mean, there's challenges that you can expect to come with any large transition like this. But from a customer service standpoint, we were severely disappointed in just the customer service from Sensei. From CareStream, we had a significant amount of turnover. So something that they market and advertise to you when they go over the demo with Sensei is that you will be assigned one particular implementations coordinator. And the implementations coordinator, we are now on our 6th over the past few months. We had been set up with one initial coordinator. We had been contacting back and forth. The flow was fine with communication for, I'd say, the first 4 or 5 weeks, which was great. And then she just kind of disappeared. And I couldn't get a hold of her. My emails weren't going through. I finally reached back out to our salesperson, and he advised me that she left and took another job, but no one ever reached back out to me to assign me to a new coordinator or let me know what was going on. So myself, the practice, and the staff were just kind of waiting around in limbo. Then the second time that we lost a coordinator, we lost it from her lack of information being provided to us. I had complained about the communication methods. I'd reach out and reach out and reach out. My emails and messages were going through. I still had access and wasn't getting an abrupt wall that her email didn't exist, or it still existed, unlike the previous, but she wasn't responding. So I had to escalate to speak to the management department. Then we got assigned a third coordinator. The third coordinator after that. Same scenario as the first. It was okay. It was great for a few weeks, but she didn't last with us longer than 2 weeks. She up and quit as well. So it was hard to stay consistent with CareStream when CareStream wasn't being consistent with their staff or with us. We finally got to the point of frustration that we asked about having in-person training, because that was something that was discussed when we were going over our demo with a sales representative. We were then advised that that was not an option, and that was not something that was ever discussed, but everyone that was present for that meeting was on the same page that that was an option that was discussed. So I had to push and advocate for that as well, to have someone come out in person. I will say it did work out in our favor. Instead of having them come out for training sessions, had pushed to have them come out during our go live dates. So while our staff was adapting to using the system for the first day and second day, we had an on-site CareStream trainer available to answer any questions, while the rest of the leadership team was running around helping as well.
What was the staff reaction during the onboarding process? How did we manage change resistance?
I mean, resistance is always a little expected. We hope that it isn't going to be there, but frustration with change is inevitable from some people. Change is hard. So you can't control how people are going to react to it, and that's the approach that myself and the other management team takes, because it is inevitable. Change is hard, change is frustrating, and anything new and scary gets a little new and scary. So we just helped the staff to look for the good and help them have an understanding as well that good things take time and change takes time to adapt to. Not only are you adapting to things, but we're adapting to things, the surgeons are adapting to things, that it'll get over quickly and it'll get better quickly.
Did you feel like it was fairly easy for the staff to adapt to the new system?
Yes, I will say that. As we sat one-on-one with each staff member to go over the training and onboarding process with Sensei and the functionality differences between Sensei and WinOMS, the team adapted very well. We got lots of positive feedback from the staff members, even just letting them click around and play in the system. We had access and sent out access to all the team members as well to play around with the test system that they give you access to, so they could make mistakes in there rather than making mistakes in our system that was fresh and shiny and new. But we got lots of positive feedback from the staff that the user functionality is much better.
How did the onboarding process affect our day-to-day operations in the practice? Did we have to halt any services, or was it business as usual?
So we did have to halt services for some of the training days just because we had to be on the Teams meeting all together. So we did close down the practice for different times. The benefit of scheduling it is to schedule it either first thing in the morning or at the very end of the day, so that we weren't disrupting our staff members' personal lives outside of work. But the trainings are very short for you to be able to process through. We did extend time into our first 3 weeks of practice. We initially thought that it was going to take us a good 5 weeks to get adapted, but because Sensei is very user-friendly, the staff was good to go within 3 weeks of us adding additional time. So we added additional time to the post-ops, the consults, and the surgeries, a good 15-minute buffer for the consults and the post-ops, and a 15 to 30-minute buffer for the surgeries, depending on what they were scheduled for, to add in the extra time to adapt.
Do you feel like Sensei overall improved the practice compared to WinOMS?
I will definitely say that I have seen an improvement. There's still lots of things that can be done efficiency-wise on Sensei that we'd like to make suggestions to, and we're actively working with the development team to make suggestions to, but it's night and day compared to the functionality of WinOMS. And once things are ironed out and fully developed, it'll be a well-oiled machine.
Thank you, Corinne. All right, that concludes our look into our experience with the onboarding process with Sensei. I hope this behind-the-scenes look into our transition experience provides valuable insights for those of you considering making the switch. The journey so far has been challenging, but also enlightening, and it's just the beginning. Stay tuned in the next episode of this series where we'll be sharing our initial reactions to the Sensei software billing functionality. You definitely don't want to miss it. As always, if you found this video helpful, do hit the like button and share it with your colleagues who might also find this information useful. It really supports the channel and helps us reach more dental professionals navigating their tech journeys. And if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any future episodes. We have a lot more insightful content coming your way, and we're excited to have you join us on this journey. So that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Dexter Maddox with IMvision Dental signing off. Keep innovating, and I'll see you in the next video.